Hey, everybody, and Happy New Year. First podcast recording in 2026. This will not the first one getting released in 2026, but I'm super excited to have James Arthur Smith here with me. I have had podcasts with people I know extremely well, with strangers. And James Arthur is a really cool one because we know each other, but we don't have that deep of a relationship. And we're actually talking pre-show about the beauty of kind of getting to know each other and doing these podcasts as a way to connect. I met James at a conference, and he owns a company called Seatopia. If you are looking for healthy fish delivered to your home, I have bought it. It was what we ate all through the holiday season, and you should check them out. But we really connected, not just on, the entrepreneur level, but we started talking about each other's business, our pro-environmental views, the importance of eating right. And we started to connect even deeper. And I found out that he lives in a small town called Princeville in Hawaii that I visited. And he starts his day jumping in the ocean and surfing. And he's done a lot of things that seem like, wow, he has a good life. But actually, these are things that decisions he's made and disciplines he's put in to get some sort of emotional payoff. And that's what we're going to explore on the podcast today. So James Arthur, so excited to have you, man. I appreciate you making the time.
Yes, brother. Thank you for creating the space on my calendar and for, having these conversations. It's a great way to start the year, is diving into meaningful conversations. And, I think when we met, there's just like a recognition of operating with similar wavelength and having like a cultural alignment. So I see you, brother. Let's dive in.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And let's dive in by talking about how you dive into the water in the morning. So I know it's probably not every morning, but you said you like to start your day going down to the ocean and surfing. Is it like around sunrise, right?
Yeah, it's there's such a reward in doing it, and there's like a bit of challenge every single day in doing it. Whether it's just being tired or it feels cold or I don't have time, there's always like some sort of like emotional, physical like excuse that needs to be overcome. I endeavor to get in the water at least for a quick swim or a quick surf every day. It just puts me in a state of gratitude. There's something about the cold water immersion. There's something about sort of the mammalian reflex of being submerged in cool water and then seeing the light of the day start, getting that morning sunlight, setting the circadian rhythm. It just puts me in such a good place to start the day. And I feel sort of accomplished in like doing something that I define as a goal for myself. So I get a lot of emotional, but also like physiological payoff,
Heck yeah. Well, it's funny. There's a common saying out there that, being a success, like achieving a goal, it is just as simple as, moving closer to a premeditated goal, right? So if you set that as a goal for yourself, then it is a goal and you are a success by doing it. But it's really funny that you talked about the challenge, because my morning routine has two key parts to it, and it's an exercise and a cold shower, or if ideally jump in a lake, jump in a river, take a cold plunge, but at a minimum take a cold shower. And both of those things I do every day. I mean, I'm 365 days a year, maybe miss a day or something. But I still, every day there is a little bit of challenge to it, and I don't know what it is, like whether it's like a logistical challenge or like I'm just like today I was just tired. I don't know. I was tired. I ate some ice cream last night, which again, that's a 3 times a year thing for me. So maybe that had something to do with it. But, how do you, not how do you overcome the challenge? I don't really care about that. Why do you overcome the challenge?
There's something about like holding yourself accountable, stating that you're going to do something. It feels, I guess it is the emotional reward that I get out of it. But also just the physiological, like I just know that I feel better physically when I do it. And there's something about like the manifesting kind of qualities of experiencing what I set out to do. And so for me, like when I ask myself, what does it mean to be living my best life? Surfing is part of that. Being in a place that I feel grateful to be is part of that. And when I do that, when I actually like get out in the water, even if I only have a very short period of time, like between the logistics of like getting down the cliff, paddling out to the spot, paddling it back in, like sometimes I only have like 20 minutes to surf to try to line up and catch a good wave. But all of that effort pays off because I know that I was there. I took a moment to breathe and acknowledge and like I saw something beautiful. I saw the morning light. I got this beautiful glimpse of a beautiful wave. I had that feeling. And if I can authentically say, wow, I'm so lucky to be here. If I can authentically feel that, it just sets me up for the rest of the day. Like everything else, like the luck just starts happening because I achieved what I want to achieve. I'm living, even if it's just for 20 minutes of my day, I'm living the life that I wanted to create.
Man, there's a lot to jump into there. I love that you talked about like the manifesting realm of it, because I think if we don't start seeing small serendipitous, things that happen, we're not going to see the big things. And then you also talked about the emotional payoff. We could jump into that. Do you know Dr. Joe Dispenza by chance?
I mean, I don't know him personally, but
yeah.
I
know of
yeah.
him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He has a quote that I try not to, even people like Dr. Joe, who I love and I follow and I practice, try not to take anything they say as as just right. You try to think about it. But something that he always says is, we do things for the emotional payoff. And I found a lot of times in my life that is true. Like I'm talking weightlifting to business to taking my fiance on a date. It's like we're doing it for how we like feel from it. Which I find is interesting. I really relate to the fact that you might only have 20 minutes to surf. I was laughing because my alarm went off at 5 a.m. and I pop out of bed. Even like on a day today when I was like tired, I'd pop out of bed and I just get going. And I got home at 7:15 and I only lifted for an hour, but from, brushing my teeth, changing my clothes, getting to the gym, checking into the gym, throwing my stuff in a locker, doing a little warm up. I got like a 60-minute window to get after it. And then a quick little cool down, whatever. But for those 60 minutes, man, my phone is in a locker, locked up, and, you're there and you're proud of yourself, and it's your identity, right? Like part of me is I'm someone who takes care of my body and my mind, and part of you is I'm a surfer, so I think that's really beautiful. You mentioned a discernment that you have between your, how you feel emotionally and how you feel physiologically. I'm not so sure that I have the ability to separate those. When you're talking about like getting in the water, like you just feel good. I'd love to learn a little bit more about like what you meant by that.
I think I shared the Blue Mind book with you. Is that right?
Yeah.
He talks, there's some, I think they may scratch the surface on that, but then if you look at like the aquatic ape hypothesis, where when we submerge, like the mammalian dive reflex, right? Like when we submerge our body in cold water, there's a physiological change that happens where mammals, not all mammals actually, but humans and apes, heart rates slow down. And there's a state of calm and a shift in our body, in our hormones, and in our brains that puts us into a flow state, puts us into a state of calm. And it allows humans to, for example, stay underwater while diving longer. Your heart rate slows down. You can use less oxygen. You feel more relaxed. These physiological traits enable some of the emotional payoff, but it's sort of like it's the direct physical manifestation that is like the setting for the emotional payoff.
Yeah. Cool. I appreciate it. And yeah, I started getting into the blue mind. I actually, I was at my mom's house and I'm going to be back there in a couple of weeks. So I left it with her because she is thinking about moving by the water. And I was like, you got to read this book before you make any decisions. Because she started she kind of has to make a decision. She started, leaning away from it. So hopefully that'll sway. I'll have to let you know. How important is surfing in the morning to what you consider your identity?
I think surfing for me is something that I've had to evolve my relationship with. My identity for a while was skewed very heavily towards I'm a surfer, and I felt sort of self-righteous or even different and from other people because I had this relationship and this skill. I remember a very young and immature version of me walking into a room as like a 20-year-old and looking around at all these people who had more money and more experience and more probably happiness and definitely security, and thinking, yeah, well, I'm better than all these people because I can surf Pipeline, which is this spot on the North Shore of Oahu that I spent many years surfing. And I think back at how silly that is and how I had to evolve as a human to develop other skills and experience and security in order to have a more diversified identity. That's not just one thing. I think about myself as a father today, as a conservationist, as an activist, as an entrepreneur, as a founder, as a husband. Surfing, I've had to let go of as an identity because I think it skewed my ego in an unhealthy and too weighted, because it's unfortunately one of those things that in some ways is out of our control. It's very difficult to rely on surfing for happiness because the surf is fickle, right? To have a relationship with a bipolar partner or a very erratic partner is going to be very unhealthy, and that is unfortunately what happens with a lot of people who are, their identity is based on something external that is not consistent. And surfing, the ocean is consistent, but the conditions aligning to good waves and is not. So being a surfer, I am evolving that relationship, but the act of being in the ocean and riding waves gives me a lot of joy, and it brings me, I've had to evolve my identity from I'm a surfer to surfing is something that I do because it brings me connection to nature, to joy, to this religious experience, not very easy to get wrapped up in cultural, egotistical, how good do you surf? How good do you surf? Anyways.
Man, no, that really hit hard for me. I didn't think about how that relate, those things and how it relates to me until I just heard them, from you. But, I grew up, a ball player, football, basketball, baseball, lacrosse, and that was totally my identity. Over the holidays, I was talking with my fiance's family about something. They were like, Sean, did you do that when you were that age? I think it was watching a movie or watching a TV show. I was like, I've told you guys, and I'm not being rude. I literally only played sports. That was literally all I did. And in high school, I was a 3-sport athlete. And I remember I would practice with, the lacrosse team indoors in the winter before my basketball practice. That was it. But then again, you need a team to play football, basketball, lacrosse, baseball, whatever. These weren't individual sports. I mean, I love skiing, love climbing mountains. Like even that, you need good weather. You need to be near mountains. You need time, right? And it kind of hit me when you said that, I might need to not let go of, but change my identity or my relationship with how that's a part of my identity, because, I have felt like, again, and it's so silly to say out loud, like, oh, I'm better than everyone in here because I'm the best basketball player in the room. It's like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, well, no one, including yourself, really cares. But I see you're laughing, like you resonate too, or it's like, yeah, I'm definitely the strongest person in this room. Okay. It's like, unless there's an apocalypse, you're fine. But yeah. Now like that relationship, one, for the experience, right? Like tonight I'm playing, I'm not where I am. I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This is where my fiance's family is. I'm only here a couple weeks throughout the year. I always go back and play ball with my buddies. Like that's totally a part of my life that I want to keep and I'm proud of. But that can't be something that's like taking precedence over, other elements, I think, because I think it can be a little bit unhealthy.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope, right? Like when you're in that flow and you're getting that that satisfaction, especially like when you're in that community of other players. Like for me, like, there's this, once upon a time, I spent every single swell surfing this certain spot on the North Shore of Oahu. And when I was in that zone, in that community, I was being reinforced by that community, and my pecking order was in that lineup was related to my presence in the water on the biggest days, on the most critical days, and my performance, and thus my ego and my self-worth had a lot to do with that, right? And as I've evolved as a human, there has to be much more context to what I'm doing, because that doesn't do much outside of that environment. I need to have self-worth beyond that. I need to have skills beyond that. I need to have interesting stories and experience beyond that, to relate. So yeah, when you're in that world, it's very easy to go deep into that and have that self-fulfilling thing. But
yeah. That's a good way to put it. It sounds like the thing you're optimizing for is like things that are maybe transferable, right? Like if you are really happy, just being, right? Just being alive and sitting there, you're really happy in other people's companies, like these big vague topics, like they have much more utility than being really happy when you're surfing, right? Because I met that this year. I mean, so I am, for better, for worse, as active as it comes, and like not even just like fitness. Like I could wake up, work out, play basketball, hike. Like I just like to keep moving. I take almost all my calls unless they're podcasts, walking. And then I had a pretty serious back injury. I was like, whoa, like so much is tied to movement,
Yeah.
You become fragile.
Yeah. Yeah. Injuries are incredibly humbling, and you can learn a lot from them, for sure. I've had probably a lot of learnings from injuries, and have to rebuild in that humble way. Yeah. It's part of growing as a human, I think, is just like when a little kid falls down, you can coddle them and pick them up and tell them it's okay, and distract them, or you can just be like, yeah, that's part of it. You learned that lesson. Think about it. Why did you fall? And maybe, what do you want to get out of that? And so like, when I have a back injury or I tore some ligaments in my knee and I wasn't able to surf, and it really changed me as a human to I'm thinking about like a meniscus tear that I had in my knee that took a long time to recover. And I actually don't think I have ever developed the same muscle definition in my quads that I had before that injury. And it's changed the way that I surf. It's changed the way that I walk, the way that I stretch. But I think it's allowed me to not be myopic in my perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, the like introduction to the podcast when I started, I changed it recently, but it was that everything has a bright side to it. And the bright side doesn't have to outweigh, you know, the dark side, but everything has a bright side to it. So choose to give your attention wherever you want to. And actually, so the Happiness Discipline is a podcast, a book that I'm writing and a blog. And it came out, I came up with the idea when I was living, back home for 30 days. So I got a phone call that my grandfather was going to pass away in the next day or two. So I just got in the car and drove home. I looked for flights. There were no flights that day because there was bad weather. So I drove from Milwaukee to Maryland, 15 hours straight. I was like, I just got to get there. He was on hospice. He was 120 pounds and he's a 180-pound man, but he was shriveling up. They pulled the feeding tube, barely gave him water, and cousins started coming in, you know, uncles and aunts, and my grandma and my parents aren't together, but my mom was in town. My brother came down from New York, and 29 days later, my grandfather passed away with no food and basically no water, like dripping like sponges into his mouth for like a little bit of water. And as much as that was like one of the hardest times of my life, it was actually one of the best months of my life, February of 2020. February of 2020, actually, just before kind of COVID hit. And it really was, I just quit my job and started a company. And I was like, you know, needing to focus on work, but also needing to be there for my family, for you know, and the reason it was one of the best parts was I got to spend 30 straight days with my dad, my grandma, my uncles, my cousins. You know, it's like, of course it was under this bad condition and it ended horribly, but it was one of the brightest moments of my life and one of the darkest. And I think that is, that is one of the foundations of the Happiness Discipline, is directing like your awareness and your attention. So I think it's cool that you worded it as, I have a lot of learnings that came out of my injuries because, you know, you had a lot of tough times and you missed surfing and you had to rehab hard and whatever, but like, you know, you don't need to focus all your attention on that, right? There's such a beauty to focusing, on the positive.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that story. That really is a beautiful example of the hardships that bring us together and bring out so much more. It feels a little bit shallow, but to bring it back to surfing and sport, you know, my relationship with surfing today, partially evolved from injury and partially evolved from like moving to a place that didn't have great surf and having to like being forced to learn to appreciate the sport for something other than like the high performance aspect of it. So if the high performance aspect was like the thing that I thought was amazing and like, you know, the ability to perform at a high level, you know, was like the that really reinforced the ego, then like what is the spiritual side of it was just communing with nature, just being in that beautiful moment, having those silent, you know, times. Like, I wonder if like in sport, you have that where it's like, maybe like playing baseball with a team in front of a huge audience is like a peak performance, but like going out on a rainy day with no one around and, you know, a few friends just like, you know, like playing in the mud, like there's the like religious kind of experience of it, you know, it's like we get to learn other aspects of our lives when we go through and find the why. Like,
yeah. And I think we just like want more as humans. You know, I feel that a lot on like the entrepreneur side. You know, sometimes like, when's enough? Like, you know, everyone's trying to grow and optimize and this and that. And I am too, but I'm like, why do we want that? But I totally feel you. So when I was, I was working with a life coach and I was starting to ski really hard. We were living in a cabin. We lived at 11,000 feet and we could ski from the house backcountry. And, my life coach was like, hey man, it's cool that you spend all your time skiing, but if you can't have as much fun riding a green groomer holding your girlfriend's hand as you do, bombing cliffs and ripping trees, like, then you like the thrill, you like the ego, you like how it feeds that, but you don't like skiing, Like if you liked skiing, you would like all types of skiing. And I felt the exact same way. Another time, like I remember we had a 24-hour gym and, I played a lot of basketball and like I was just shooting around with my fiance and I did love it. And it was like, we were literally just shooting, right? And I was like, damn, like I do like love basketball. And like sometimes I miss playing at like higher levels, but if I think you're lacking a capacity as a human, if there has to be like conditions for your enjoyment.
Yeah. For your happiness. Yeah.
It's the subtitle of the book, Unconditional Happiness. Practicing unconditional happiness.
What is it about death that breaks through all the ego and brings people together and the outcome is happiness?
I think it's got to be like perspective that things are finite, right? I'm thinking, so it's funny. I just read a book called The Surrender Experiment by Michael A. Singer, and he talks about that energy comes from within. Energy doesn't come from sleep. Energy doesn't come from water or food. It comes from within. And I remember these days, as fun as they were grueling. I was waking up at 4 a.m. and hitting a run and a body weight workout. So by 5 a.m. I could work until 8. And then my dad woke up and that was what we would just go straight to hospice and, like bringing a laptop, trying to be with family, everyone's trying to do chores for them, like these long days. And then we'd come home and you'd think we'd all go right to bed, right? We were up talking about like the importance of life and like the relationship with our dad. I think it's because, we're just like watching the end of life and it's like, it was real. It was real that life ends, like, and we saw it and we just didn't want to miss a moment or squander a thing.
Yeah. Valuing each day, each moment, really slowing down. That's rich. That's so rich. It's very easy to forget how important every day is. And death is a really good reminder.
Yeah.
And death trips.
Death trips?
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
Like ayahuasca and like big doses of psilocybin, like leaving your body type of experiences where you let go of holding on to the idea that life is endless, Yeah. Or at least in this form, like just the knowing of the finiteness of this experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't experienced ayahuasca. I would say it's something that is calling me. I have with psilocybin and it's like, you don't want to, not that you don't want to miss a moment, but you're like, your level of like appreciation goes up so high that your awareness grows, is my experience. And it's just like you're just taking in everything for just the sake of taking it in.
Yeah.
Like with no outcome.
Yeah. Yeah. Time is surprisingly, it's difficult to appreciate how time can change, how time can be slow or it can be fast. It's very easy to feel fast all the time, but to really slow it down in this society is tricky. You got to go out and hug a tree and just not let go of it for 12 hours to really like be a tree to watch and feel and listen.
Seriously. Hug a tree and not let go for 12 hours. All right. That's everyone's homework.
It was the homework for this, in this book that I read, called, The Wind is My Mother, by, Bearhart, this like a Native American shaman, and his teacher, that was one of his lessons, was like, don't let go of this tree until I come back and tell you you can. And at first he thought it was just about ego. He thought the guy was playing a trick on him, but eventually once he let go of all that, he started listening and observing. And that was the lesson, was to be.
It's beautiful. I did a 5-day retreat with a small group on the north shore of the Big Island, 2 summers ago. And we got down, we hiked over a couple mountains past this like really secluded beach.
Waipio Valley?
Yeah.
Or the next one over?
The next one over,
yeah.
I forget what it is, but the next one over, it's such a beautiful secluded area. And
yeah,
we get there and the head of the retreat goes, cool. It's Wednesday and, we leave Sunday. And they walked away. And, some of us are thinking like, oh, we don't have like, we're going to do breath work followed by a group stretch, group workout. Then we're going to do a journaling session. Then we're all going to cook a meal. We're just chilling. And I mean, dude, like, what we ended up doing was so fun. I mean, we made a little saw and we're climbing trees and cutting coconuts, and we carved into like coconut, like little cups, and we were like made huge fires and we're cooking. We're having a blast. And like, it just came from like being, just being, you know what I mean? Like we made a rope swing and swung in the water and body surfed and like everything. But it was so funny because I remember my brother met that energy with a little anger, and he's not an angry guy.
Sure.
He was kind of like, dude, I fucking paid for this and flew from New York here. I mean, for nothing. And not, he knew it was beautiful and whatever, but he was it wasn't anger. I would say disappointment. Just like, I wish there was stuff on there. And as the days are going, he started vibing with it. He's like, I see that the medicine is here. I feel the medicine.
I feel that anxiety in my stomach, the way that just right now, like I related to that so hard. It's so real. Like sometimes the medicine is just getting out of your comfort zone and letting go of your expectations.
My brain literally went to, I could start a business in 5 days. I was like 5 dedicated days. I could like launch a whole new business, and I'm just going to sit here, it is interesting what happens when you trust boredom, like really trust it. This morning, again, I do the same thing every morning. I go in the gym, I leave my phone in the car or in the locker. This morning, I brought these little guys just in case I was going to bring my phone today. And I'm sitting there, I was like, maybe I listen to a book or some pump up music. But I know that like, not that exercising without music is boredom, but it's in the direction of it because it's one less stimulus. And it's literally undeniable. And I'm just remembering this as we're talking. There was a guy that passed me in the locker that I see like every day when I'm up here. And he was like, how's your workout? And I said, good, because I didn't have my phone on me. And it's just like, and I'm just remembering that now. It's like, wow, you just got to trust the boredom. I guess it's like a level of anxiety of like, wanting that stimulus.
Sure. Being a father, is such a good teacher because, like I used to say, like being in a relationship is a great mirror. You have this person who holds you accountable, but the truth is you could be in a relationship and kind of not look in the mirror, but with children, at least for me, I've found like it's an incredible teacher because I don't want to look away. And with the children, there's a lot of that. Like, it's very easy to just like keep them distracted and keep throwing like toys and books and music and food and snacks and adventure. But there's also something with like teaching them how to deal with anxiety, deal with boredom, sit through that process. And then the other side of it activates creativity and play, and like that's the real power in life. Is not like, can you take this toy that I put in your hand and be happy, but can you activate creativity?
Dude, that's killer. I'm experienced at the spiritual, I'm excited about the spiritual experience that having children is going to bring. My buddy that I'm going to play ball with tonight, his kids, when they say I'm bored, he says the same thing every time. He goes, what a cool opportunity. And he just stops, you know, and he doesn't, I mean, he's done that. He has two things that he always tells me that stuck out. That, and the other is when they say like they want dessert, he gives them fruit. But they want candy, he gives them fruit. He tells them that's candy and that's dessert. There's two little parenting tips I got tucked away here.
Yeah.
But there's a beauty to that. And like it, you know, I could see parenting being something that helps you hold yourself to a higher standard, because if you want to display it, you better act it. You know, it's going to be hard to say, oh no, don't distract yourself, and then just like sit on your phone.
Bro, my daughter will do things like this. Like last night, like we had some friends over for dinner, and as soon as they got here, she like went over to like her little corner and was like, shh, I'm on a phone call. I'm working right now. And it was like, wow, she is mirroring what I do. You know, she sees me do that. I am sometimes ignoring her or pushing her away, deprioritizing her for these other things. And I need to take that seriously. Like for her to feel like there's times when she's less important than work and phone calls is something I have to sit with. And she just showed me that.
I wrote a blog January of last year about that. I think working from home is one of the hardest things of my relationship. And partially it's because me and Em are best friends and we want to do everything together, and we eat the same and we want to exercise the same and we want to know what the other one's doing. Like, you know, we're buddies. And I realized when I work, let's say I work 8 hours a day, right? That's 8 hours, you know, of the day where we're in the same room or the same home, and I'm kind of treating, you know, her like she's invisible. And you know, it's under a clear communication. It's under, you know, there's no negative reception to it, or it's not done with any intent, but it does build habits. It does build, you know, I'm just thinking about now, it does build habits of like, oh, like subconscious, you know, cues of like, no, it's like laptop over that, phone over that, you know. I don't know. It is an interesting thing to think about. I appreciate you sharing that. I appreciate you sharing everything, man.
Somebody shared recently this reflection of like, when somebody comes to the door, somebody that you run into somebody and we greet them with enthusiasm and excitement, but then your kid comes in the room and you barely acknowledge them. Like, how is that, or your wife or your partner, you know, like, what are we signaling? Are we signaling that person that came to the door has more value and more importance? You know, doesn't mean that we always have to get so excited and elated, but like it does, it's just something to reflect on. Like, how do we signal, communicate value? Yeah. I don't really know if there's an answer or a right or wrong, but especially for children, it puts a big impression on them.
Well, I mean, I've seen it. I've done it. I've seen it where, you know, you're like tired and just want to stare at your phone, and then someone calls you, "Hey, what's up, man?" And it's like, damn, like the energy's there. It is. And you know, that is one of the quirks about relationships is like, you know, if your downtime, your work time, your exercise time are also in the same environment as the person that you care about, like, you know, what are you signaling? Or like, you know, I always used to say like, I wish I could like, when I'm working, I could like leave for an office so that I could come back and like, you know, like the old days, I guess not even that old, but my laptop and my computer's at the office, right?
Yeah.
You know, the phone's at the office, or even before that, no computers, no internet. Like, I cannot work from home. There's no capacity to.
Right.
Yeah. It's really interesting.
I think we spent so many years that it's deeply ingrained in our genetics, like that sort of balance, that flow, dating back to whether it was like men going out and working in the fields or hunting. It's part of our genetic makeup for sure. And there's a lot of value in us going away. We go away to work, we go away to better ourselves, and then we come back to bring food, to bring joy, to bring, yeah.
Sure. Man, I appreciate this conversation we had, and I feel like we could keep diving into some things here, but I want to know before we hop off, where do you want to place your attention for 2026? As you're thinking about maybe goals you have or reflecting on this conversation, where do you want to place your attention in 2026?
Last year and the year before, I think a lot of my attention was on building Seatopia, on growing the business. Like when I thought about my goals and planning my year, it was a lot of business planning. And this year is more about a holistic planning, like the balance of supporting my health, my well-being, my family, and how that is in support and creates symbiotic relation with business, right? Like as within, as without. So within I was manifesting and calling in the idea of flow and capacity, like having more capacity to manage more responsibility, more complexity, but doing it with ease and having that state of flow throughout life was sort of what I'm calling in this year. And part of that is prioritizing the sort of foundational elements of what gives me capacity, gives me flow, and that's taking care of myself, taking care of my family, my health, my mental well-being. All of those things enable and facilitate the ability to manage complexity, responsibility with ease and flow. I don't want to have more abundance as more stress or more complexity. I want it to come with more flow and ease. That's what I'm calling in 2026.
I will pray for you tonight to have some flow and ease in your 2026. That gives you more capacity to support you as a whole.
Thank you, brother.
And yeah, I dig that. I hear that too. Well,
what are you calling?
What am I calling? I would say I'm calling depth, relationships depth. I have some sweet trips, some hikes that are longer and more like several days or several weeks, and like deep connections to the local environment and the culture. I'm getting married this year. I just want everything to be deep. I don't think there's anything worth doing that shouldn't be deep. And I'm high moving, fast paced, type A, have 3 businesses. Like I can multitask with the best of them. And that's an insult to myself. You know what I mean? And I think, I just want to go deep with things where, I'm going to do a podcast. Let's sit down and enjoy the show. If we're going to go out to dinner, let's enjoy it. If we're going to cook a meal, let's cook it. And, I think that comes with having a skill to discern what you're not valuing. So for example, like, my breakfast today was great. Made a nice smoothie and eggs and sourdough toast. And then, I didn't have a break between meetings for lunch. So I told myself, as much as I would have loved to have a beautiful lunch where I picked vegetables out of a garden or whatever, freaking threw something together and gobbled it down and just moved on. I just gave myself grace for not having depth around that and just on to the next, and I continue to optimize for depth, but have grace when I don't have it, and be okay with like rushing that stuff, because I think there are I do think if we can rush some things, we can have more depth in other areas. So just playing around with that.
Yeah. Sometimes we have to take breaks to keep going deeper, right? And like when they're drilling really deep holes, like have you seen any of the like deep boring projects, like where they bore to try to get like the deepest core samples? Like it takes a really long time to get deep, and you have to bring the drill bits up to cool them down, and like you just can't go nonstop if you're going to go really deep, you know.
Dude,
What's that great maxim about, like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Right?
Yeah.
Like it's slower to go far, to go deep, but yeah.
Yeah. That's a good one. I guess I could learn from it. I do ultra marathons, and I take people like, you run nonstop. I'm like, no, I take breaks for sure. It's fun. And I walk sometimes too.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
It's not the only way, but yeah.
Yeah. It's a surefire way to get there. Let's go slow.
Yeah. Brother, I appreciate this. This was meaningful. Good start to the year.
Yeah. Yeah. You're literally manifesting what you're calling in is deep, meaningful relationships, conversations, more to come.
Yeah, man.
To be continued.
Thank you for your time. Thank you. And, we'll have to continue this one day.
Yeah. When are you coming out to Kauai? We'll do a long walk.
One of these days, I'll let you know. I'll come out there this year. I can put that on the docket. Yeah.
All right, brother.
Cool. Thank you for your time.